It was a quiet evening in the city, the kind where the bustling streets seemed almost calm, the air still with a cool breeze. The city lights flickered across the horizon, unaware of the impending danger lurking above. In the dark, silent sky, an alien scout ship appeared, cloaked in near invisibility. It hovered just out of sight of the bustling city, high above in the clouds, its sleek metallic surface blending perfectly with the night. This was no ordinary vessel. Its design was far beyond anything humanity had ever dreamed of, a pinnacle of alien technology. Inside the ship, a group of aliens, known as the Thrixians, watched Earth through their advanced sensors. Their large, dark eyes observed with cold detachment. Their species, technologically far more advanced than humanity, had been watching Earth for years, studying its inhabitants. But to them, humans were nothing more than a primitive race, weak, frail, and vulnerable, especially to water. The Thrixians had studied countless species across the galaxy, and they knew that water had often been the undoing of many of them. Some alien species simply couldn't breathe it, while others drowned in it. The Thrixians believed that Earth's water would be the perfect weapon to wipe out humanity and claim Earth as their own. They would use the planet's vast water reserves against its inhabitants, unleashing a virus that would cause rapid suffocation whenever humans came into contact with water. It seemed like a flawless plan, a quick, painless way to decimate humanity. In the darkness of the scout ship's control room, a figure stood at the center. Krar, the ruthless commander of the invasion force. He looked at the live feed from the ship's sensors, his thin lips curling into a cold smile. "We are ready," he said in a deep, growling voice. "Humans are weak, and their biggest flaw is their dependence on water. We will begin the attack within hours. By the time they even realize what's happening, it will be too late." His voice was filled with confidence. The Thrixians had wiped out entire civilizations across the galaxy, and this mission would be no different. The Earth was ripe for conquest, and they would crush humanity with ease. One of Krar's subordinates, Zanx, a tall alien with a pale, almost ghostly complexion, stepped forward. "Commander, the virus is ready. We have calculated that humans will begin to suffocate within minutes of exposure to water. Their resistance will be negligible." The rest of the crew around them nodded in agreement. The plan was as simple as it was effective. The aliens would release a virus into Earth's oceans, rivers, and lakes, causing the water to become a deadly poison for humanity. The very substance that humans relied on for survival would turn against them. The Thrixians wasted no time. Krar's plan was in motion, and every detail was coming together. The virus was already set to be launched into Earth's major bodies of water. The first strike would target a reservoir just outside a large city, an easy spot to start the attack. The virus would spread quickly, and within hours, water would become the enemy. Krar looked at his team with a smirk. "By the end of this week, Earth will be ours. We will be the rulers of this planet." But as they prepared to execute their plan, something unexpected happened. In the bustling heart of the city below, Max, a highly skilled human soldier, sat at his desk, poring over data reports on his computer. Max wasn't like most humans. He was part of an elite special forces unit, trained for the most dangerous of missions. He had been monitoring suspicious activity in the area, aware of a series of strange weather patterns that had begun affecting Earth's atmosphere. But nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to discover. Max's screen flickered, displaying an encrypted signal that didn't match any known communications. It was alien in origin, and after a few moments of intense scrutiny, Max's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't a weather anomaly. This was something much worse. He quickly ran the data through his system, pulling up a list of coordinates and analyzing them. His fingers flew across the keyboard, cross-referencing the data with satellite imagery. That's when it hit him. The source of the strange activity was coming from a nearby reservoir. Max didn't need any more confirmation. He knew that the Thrixians had found a way to attack Earth, and the water supplies were their target. Max grabbed his gear, his mind racing as he rushed out of the building. The time to act was now. He knew the authorities had to be warned, but Max had been trained to handle situations like this on his own. It was clear that Earth's leaders would need more than just a warning. They would need a plan of action. But would they be ready in time? Max moved quickly through the streets, his mind focused on one thing: the reservoir. He needed to get there before the aliens launched their attack. But as he neared the site, something even stranger occurred. The air became thick and heavy, and the first signs of an unnatural storm began to form. The clouds above the city darkened quickly, swirling in tight, violent spirals. A loud crack of thunder echoed through the sky. Max's heart raced as he reached the outskirts of the reservoir. He could hear the sound of water gushing from the reservoir, but it was nothing like the usual flow of the city's water system. This was something different. The water level was rising, too quickly. The floodgates had been opened, but it wasn't just water spilling out. There was something wrong with it. The water looked almost alive. Max's training kicked in. He knew something was off, but the urgency to act kept him moving. He saw that the first storm surges were spilling into the streets, flooding roads and homes in the surrounding areas. The reservoir wasn't just releasing water. It was as though the water itself was being manipulated, guided by an unseen force. But what shocked Max even more was the sight of the water moving as though it had a mind of its own. The waves were violent, swirling unnaturally in large spiral formations. This wasn't a natural flood. The storm wasn't a result of weather. It was as though the water was being controlled. As Max stood there, eyes wide with shock, he realized what was happening. The aliens had launched their virus, and it was already taking effect. But that wasn't all. The water was beginning to rise at an alarming rate, flooding everything in its path. Max could see it now, the signs of alien interference. The floodwaters weren't just rising. They were being manipulated, directed to cause chaos and destruction. He had to warn the city, but the alien attack had already begun. The Thrixians had made their first move, and Max was now caught in the middle of their destructive plan. He knew that if he didn't act fast, the entire city, and humanity itself, could be doomed. End of part 1. As Max watched the floodwaters rise higher, the eerie calmness of the alien scout ship hovering above the city remained undisturbed. The Thrixians were waiting, their attack underway. They believed humanity would fall in mere hours, their plans so precise, so deadly. But they had underestimated one thing: the resilience of humanity. The water may have been a weapon, but humans weren't as helpless as the Thrixians thought. Max was about to discover that Earth's greatest strength might be something the aliens had never expected. The storm raged outside, but inside the operations center, the human soldiers were anything but calm. Max stood at the head of a small, elite team of soldiers, each one equipped with the latest technology Earth had to offer. The mission was clear: infiltrate the alien-controlled reservoir, assess the situation, and stop the viral attack before it could spread. The team moved quickly and silently, their boots making no sound as they crossed through the flooded streets. They used cloaking devices to blend into their surroundings, making it almost impossible for the aliens to detect their presence. They had to move quickly. The alien virus was already in the water supply, and it had begun spreading at an alarming rate. If the Thrixians succeeded, humanity would be doomed. But as they neared the heart of the alien operation, where the virus had been released, Max noticed something strange. The water, which had initially been rising rapidly, seemed to slow down. It was as though the floodwaters were less dangerous now. He had been prepared for the worst, expecting to see humans suffering and dying from the virus. But instead, something entirely unexpected was happening. The soldiers began to wade through the water, carefully making their way toward the source of the problem. They reached the reservoir's pumping station, and what they saw shocked them. The humans who had been caught in the floodwaters were not drowning. In fact, they appeared unaffected. Max's heart raced as he watched civilians and soldiers alike moving with ease through the rising water, carrying on with their lives as though nothing had changed. It was as if the water was no threat to them at all. How is this possible? Max muttered to himself. He knew the Thrixians had been convinced that water would be their greatest weapon. The aliens had planned for humanity's quick demise, but this wasn't happening. The people in the flooded streets were thriving, not choking or suffocating as expected. One of Max's soldiers, Jenna, who had been carefully scanning the area, looked up in confusion. "Sir, they're not affected by the water. It's like the virus isn't working." Max's mind raced as he tried to piece the puzzle together. The aliens were known for their impeccable planning, but there was no way they could have predicted this. Water wasn't supposed to be a tool for human survival. It was their weapon, designed to bring humanity to its knees. It didn't make sense. Max motioned for his team to follow him deeper into the site. He could feel the tension mounting as they advanced into the alien control facility. As they moved through the submerged building, the strange phenomenon became even clearer. Not only were the humans not suffocating, but many were even swimming with ease, diving into the rising waters and emerging seconds later, gasping for air. It was as if they had always been born to live in these conditions. Max's mind flashed back to his earlier training. Could it be possible that something in human biology had adapted to water in ways the aliens didn't understand? He had never heard of anything like it, but this was no time for doubt. After accessing one of the alien consoles, Max discovered something even more shocking. The Thrixians had underestimated the resilience of human biology. Their data suggested that humans had an inherent resistance to suffocation caused by water, an evolutionary trait that had never been fully understood by the aliens. It wasn't just that humans could survive underwater. They were built for it. Max's eyes widened as he analyzed the data. Human lungs could hold oxygen for much longer than any species the Thrixians had encountered before. Humans could dive into the deepest oceans, hold their breath for incredible amounts of time, and emerge without a single sign of distress. The floodwaters and the virus that the Thrixians had unleashed were completely ineffective against them. It was a revelation that could turn the tide of the entire war. "They've made a critical mistake," Max muttered to his team. "The Thrixians thought humans were weak, but we've evolved in ways they can't even comprehend." The Thrixians' plan was unraveling before their eyes, and Max knew this was just the beginning. They had thought they could use water as their weapon, but now it was clear. Humans were not the helpless victims the Thrixians had imagined. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the building. Alien drones, large, hovering machines with deadly weapons, came rushing in. They had detected the human infiltration, and the first wave of alien soldiers descended from above, weapons drawn and ready for combat. Max's team immediately took cover, pulling out their high-tech weapons. The battle began without warning. The Thrixian soldiers, heavily armed and ruthless, opened fire, but Max and his team were ready. They used the water to their advantage, employing their own advanced weapons designed specifically for this situation. High-pressure water guns, which had been developed by Earth's top engineers, unleashed torrents of water at the attacking aliens, knocking them off balance and disorienting them. "Stay close," Max shouted, motioning for his team to move forward. "We've got this." The human soldiers didn't hesitate. With precision and skill, they fought back, using the environment to their advantage. They had set up water traps along the flooded hallways, and when the Thrixians moved in, the humans activated them, sending jets of high-pressure water into the faces of their enemies. The aliens stumbled, unable to anticipate the impact of the water, their equipment short-circuiting as the water flooded their systems. It was chaos, but Max and his team fought with incredible coordination, each member using their water-based weapons to neutralize the alien threat. The Thrixians were technologically superior, but they were unprepared for this type of combat. They had never encountered a species that could turn water into a weapon. Max took aim at one of the alien drones and fired, sending a powerful stream of water directly at its controls. The drone faltered, sparks flying as its circuits fried. With a final mechanical whine, it crashed to the ground, defeated. But even as they fought back, the humans knew they were outnumbered. The Thrixians had sent wave after wave of soldiers, and they had to act fast before the situation became too overwhelming. "Jenna, take the left flank," Max ordered. "I'll cover you." Jenna moved quickly, dodging enemy fire as she used her aquatic drone to launch a barrage of water blasts at the advancing alien soldiers. Meanwhile, Max and another soldier, Kara, moved toward the center of the reservoir, engaging the aliens with a combination of precise gunfire and water-based traps. The battle was fierce, with both sides taking heavy casualties. But even as the Thrixians launched their relentless assault, the humans fought back with a determination born from desperation. The human soldiers were outnumbered and outgunned, but their resilience and resourcefulness were undeniable. They used their environment to their advantage, turning the Thrixians' weapon, water, against them. The clash between the humans and the Thrixians continued, with water flooding the streets and infiltrating the battlefield. The aliens were losing ground. Their once impenetrable plan was crumbling before their eyes. The humans' unexpected resistance to water had shocked the invaders, and now the humans had the upper hand. As the battle raged on, Max realized that this was only the beginning. The Thrixians had underestimated humanity, but that mistake was about to cost them dearly. With their back against the wall, the humans were ready to show the Thrixians just how wrong they were about Earth's inhabitants. The fight was far from over, but now Max and his team knew one thing for certain: humans would not fall without a fight. Krar, the ruthless commander of the Thrixian forces, stood at the helm of his flagship, his mind racing. His once confident demeanor had evaporated. The humans, a species he had long believed to be weak and easily dominated, had just dealt a devastating blow to his well-laid plans. The water-based virus he had deployed, designed to wipe out the human population within days, had failed. Humans, in a bizarre twist, were thriving in the flooded conditions that had been meant to destroy them. As Krar watched the chaos unfold on the monitors, his frustration grew. The humans were not just surviving. They were fighting back with an unexpected ferocity. His scouts had reported the humans using advanced water-based weapons and clever tactics to counter the Thrixians' superior technology. He had underestimated them, gravely. The humans, though technologically inferior in many ways, had something that the Thrixians had failed to anticipate: resilience. Krar's claws gripped the console as he turned to his second-in-command, Zora. "What are the humans doing?" he demanded. "How are they surviving this?" Zora, who had been monitoring the situation, hesitated before responding. It's as if the humans are immune to the virus. They're not even suffocating from the water like we predicted. Their biology, it's different." Krar's eyes narrowed. Their biology? He couldn't believe it. He had studied human physiology for months before launching the attack. Their bodies should not have been able to withstand the virus. The water should have suffocated them, leaving Earth ripe for the taking. Instead, the humans seemed to be adapting, thriving, and fighting back. "We need to regroup," Krar growled. "Prepare for a retreat. We need to reassess." This mission was supposed to be easy. The alien commanders were not used to failure, especially not from a species they had long considered beneath them. They had underestimated humanity in every way possible. Now, they were on the defensive, trying to understand how their carefully planned invasion had gone so terribly wrong. The Thrixians, known for their advanced technology, were baffled by the human resistance. They activated their cloaking devices, disappearing from view as they pulled back into the atmosphere, leaving Earth's skies silent. But the damage had already been done. The humans were alert now, prepared for whatever came next, and for the first time, Krar realized that they might not be as easy to conquer as he had thought. Emotional moment. As the alien ships retreated, Max and his team continued their assault on the Thrixian forces. Despite the victory, there was an air of unease. Max's thoughts were clouded with concern. They had scored a significant win, but the aliens would not stay down for long. They would regroup, rethink their strategy, and return stronger than ever. Max's heart pounded in his chest as he looked around at his team. They were all pushing forward, fighting with everything they had. But the toll of the battle was evident. The once pristine streets were now flooded, littered with wreckage and debris. Alien drones lay in pieces, their once menacing forms now reduced to scrap. Max could feel the exhaustion in his bones, but he refused to stop. He couldn't afford to. As they moved through the wreckage, Max's mind was still fixated on the loss of his comrade Bonner. Bonner had been more than just a soldier to Max. He had been a friend, a brother in arms. The two of them had fought side by side for years, building a bond that had been forged in countless battles. Bonner had always been there for Max, always had his back, and now he was gone. The memory of Bonner's death was fresh in Max's mind, a painful reminder of the price of war. It had happened so quickly. The team had been pushing forward, securing a key position near the reservoir, when the alien strike came. The Thrixians, knowing they were losing ground, had sent in a wave of their most powerful units. Bonner had been the first to spot the danger. Without thinking, he had thrown himself in front of Max, shielding him from an incoming alien blast. Max had watched in horror as Bonner fell, his body riddled with alien energy blasts. Blood mixed with the rising floodwaters as Bonner's lifeless form sank into the water, his eyes wide with the shock of the attack. Bonner. Max had shouted, rushing to his fallen comrade's side. But it was too late. The damage had been done. Bonner's sacrifice had saved Max, but it had cost him his life. Max knelt beside his friend, his heart breaking. He couldn't believe Bonner was gone. He had been with him through everything, through the toughest missions, the most dangerous battles, the moments when they had both questioned if they would survive. And now, Bonner was gone. The pain was unbearable. Max, Jenna whispered, her voice thick with emotion. We can't stop now. Bonner would want us to keep fighting. Max clenched his fists, his tears mixing with the rainwater. His voice trembled as he stood up. We will fight. We will make them pay for this. The loss of Bonner ignited something deep within Max. The sorrow, the anger, the heartbreak. It all fueled a fire that burned brighter than ever before. This wasn't just about saving Earth anymore. This was personal. The Thrixians had taken his friend from him, and now they would pay for it. With a newfound determination, Max looked out across the battlefield. The alien forces may have retreated for now, but they were far from finished. And neither were the humans. The atmosphere was thick with tension as Max and his team regrouped, preparing for the next wave of attack. The alien ships may have disappeared into the sky, but the damage they had caused was still evident. The streets were flooded, and the once thriving city now looked like a war zone. Max stood in the middle of the chaos, his heart still heavy from the loss of Bonner, but his resolve stronger than ever. In the distance, he could see the faint outline of the alien ships as they retreated into the clouds, cloaked from view. But Max knew this wouldn't be the end. The Thrixians would regroup, they would strategize, and they would come back stronger. He had no illusions about the enemy's persistence. Max's mind flashed back to the moment Bonner had sacrificed himself. He could still hear his friend's voice echoing in his head. Don't stop fighting, Max. We're in this together. That memory stayed with him as he took one last look at the city. The battle was far from over, and humanity had a long road ahead of them. But Max knew one thing for certain. He wasn't fighting alone. As the floodwaters swirled around him, he could see the faint reflection of his own face in the water. Angry, determined, and resolute. The sky above was dark and foreboding, but Max didn't feel fear. He felt something stronger. The unshakable belief that humanity could win this fight. The loss of Bonner, tragic as it was, only made that belief burn brighter. The first battle was over, but the war had only just begun. The story deepens as the alien forces realize the humans are not as weak as they had thought, and their once unstoppable plan begins to unravel. The tragic loss of Bonner adds an emotional layer to the story, fueling Max's desire for vengeance and strengthening his resolve to defeat the invaders. The vivid visual storytelling paints a cinematic picture of the aftermath of the battle, setting the stage for the ongoing struggle between humanity and the alien forces. The Thrixian fleet, once full of confidence and superiority, now found itself at a crossroads. For weeks, Krar and his commanders had planned the invasion of Earth, convinced that the planet's inhabitants were weak, primitive creatures. The Thrixians had underestimated the humans, viewing them as little more than prey. They believed that the humans' biggest vulnerability was their dependence on water, and the virus they released should have wiped out Earth's population within days. But to their shock and horror, the humans had not succumbed to the virus. In fact, they were fighting back harder than ever, with an unexpected strength and resilience. Krar, standing in the command room of the alien flagship, glared at the holographic displays. His claws dug into the console as he watched the scenes unfold below. His troops were on the defensive, and the humans had already proven that they could fight in ways the Thrixians had not anticipated. The water that was supposed to drown them had instead become the battlefield for a bloody war. "We were wrong," Krar muttered, his voice laced with disbelief. "They are not the fragile, weak creatures we thought them to be." His second-in-command, Zora, stood silently beside him. She too was struggling to understand what had happened. The humans, with their primitive technology and seemingly outdated methods of warfare, had stood toe-to-toe with the might of the Thrixian forces. In their minds, they had expected the virus to cause massive chaos, followed by an easy conquest. But humanity's resistance was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The humans were adapting to the situation, thriving in the very conditions the Thrixians had engineered to destroy them. "They are not giving up," Zora said, her tone wary. "Their resistance is far stronger than anticipated. What do we do now?" Krar took a deep breath and clenched his fists. "We retreat, but not in fear. We need to regroup, reassess the situation, prepare a counterattack. We will strike again, and this time, we will be ready. The humans may be tougher than we thought, but they are still no match for us." He turned to the rest of his command crew. "Activate the cloaking devices. We leave immediately. We cannot afford to remain exposed." As the fleet's ships vanished from view, cloaked in their high-tech invisibility shields, Krar's mind was filled with a mixture of anger and frustration. He had thought victory would be swift and easy. The humans, in his eyes, were nothing more than an obstacle to his empire's domination of the galaxy. But now he was forced to admit that the humans were not going down without a fight, and that reality left him with a burning need for revenge. While the alien forces retreated, Max and his team were still reeling from the intensity of the battle. Though the tide had turned in their favor, the cost of the fight was evident. Bodies of both humans and aliens littered the streets, and the floodwaters, which had initially seemed like a deadly weapon, now served as a grim reminder of the chaos that had unfolded. Max's heart was heavy, weighed down by the loss of his close friend, Honor. It had all happened so quickly, and the wound left by Bonner's death was deep and raw. Max had never expected to lose someone so important to him in a battle that they had, for a moment, thought they could win. Bonner had been more than just a soldier to Max. They had fought together through countless missions, sharing jokes and laughs in the middle of dangerous situations. Over the years, their bond had strengthened, and they had become as close as brothers. It was Bonner who had always kept the team's morale high, cracking jokes even in the darkest of times. But now, that light was gone. The laughter was silenced. Max had seen Bonner fall in an instant. One moment, they had been advancing together, taking down alien drones and securing critical positions. The next, the world seemed to slow down. Max had heard Bonner shout a warning, and before he could react, an alien blast had struck him. Bonner had pushed Max out of the way, taking the full brunt of the explosion himself. Max had looked up just in time to see Bonner's lifeless body sink into the rising floodwaters, blood mixing with the rain and water. "Bonner, no!" Max had shouted, rushing to his friend's side, but there was nothing he could do. The wound was fatal, and Bonner's eyes were already glazed over, his body limp in Max's arms. "I'm sorry, Bonner," Max whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I couldn't protect you." Jenna, one of the other soldiers, had come to his side. She placed a hand on his shoulder, but even she knew there were no words that could comfort him now. Bonner was gone, and the loss left a gaping hole in Max's heart. But there was no time to mourn, not yet. The battle was far from over, and Bonner's death had ignited something deep inside Max, an unrelenting rage and determination to make the aliens pay for what they had done. The scene around Max was a blur of chaos. Alien drones hovered in the sky, their flashing lights and whirring engines cutting through the misty rain. The floodwaters, now swollen to dangerous levels, cascaded down the streets, swallowing everything in their path. The once bustling city now seemed like a drowned wasteland, its buildings half submerged in the rising tide. Max stood in the midst of the destruction, his uniform soaked and caked in mud, his face streaked with tears. The loss of Bonner weighed heavily on him, but he couldn't allow himself to break. Not yet. His comrade had given his life for the cause, and Max would honor that sacrifice. The moment was intense, and every detail of the scene added to the feeling of despair and urgency. Max stood tall, his eyes scanning the horizon as alien ships began to regroup in the distance, their cloaking devices making them nearly invisible. Despite the loss, Max knew that this was just the beginning. The Thrixians had retreated for now, but they would return, and when they did, the humans would be ready. In the distance, the rising floodwaters turned the streets into rivers, their currents strong enough to sweep away anything in their path. The glow of the alien ships, now visible again as they slowly descended from the sky, reflected off the water, casting eerie shadows across the battlefield. The air was thick with tension as Max and his team gathered their remaining strength, preparing for whatever came next. Max's eyes were fixed on the horizon. He could feel the weight of Bonner's loss, but he could also feel something else, a burning desire for revenge, a need to protect his world from the invaders who had come to destroy it. As the alien ships slowly descended back to Earth, readying for their next assault, Max clenched his fists, a fire igniting in his chest. The Thrixians had underestimated humanity's resolve, and Max was about to show them just how wrong they were. As Krar and the Thrixians reassessed their strategy, the humans' resilience becomes more apparent than ever. Max's emotional journey, marked by Bonner's sacrifice, fuels his resolve to defeat the invaders. The loss of his friend makes the fight personal, intensifying the stakes for Max and his team. The vivid imagery of the flooded city and the hovering alien ships paints a clear picture of the battle's aftermath, setting the stage for the next chapter in this epic conflict. The suspense builds as Max prepares for the inevitable return of the Thrixians, but with a deep and unshakable belief that humanity will stand strong against the invaders. The time for defense was over. Humanity had already proven it was capable of surviving against the alien invasion. But now, it was time to strike back. The humans, led by Max and his team, had discovered their unique ability to adapt and resist the alien tactics. The floodwaters, which had initially been a weapon used against them, were now part of their strategy. The team was ready to take the fight to the heart of the alien invasion, the mothership. Max stood before his team in their briefing room, his face set with grim determination. He could still hear the voices of his fallen comrades in his mind, especially Bonner, whose death had fueled his drive for revenge. Now, they were preparing for the biggest challenge yet. They would infiltrate the alien mothership, a colossal fortress in space, using cloaking technology they had salvaged from the wreckage of the first battles. "We've learned from our enemies," Max said, addressing his team. "We know how they fight, and we know how to counter it. This is our chance to hit them where it hurts. If we succeed, we'll destroy their command structure and cripple their invasion force." The team nodded, their faces a mixture of anticipation and resolve. They knew this mission was risky, but the stakes couldn't be higher. The mothership was a symbol of the Thrixians' power, and taking it down would be a decisive blow in the war. But there was no turning back. They had to win. Max and his team suited up in their cloaking suits, making sure their weapons were ready. The suit's technology allowed them to blend into their surroundings, making them almost invisible to the alien sensors. The mission was going to be dangerous. They would infiltrate the mothership, plant explosives in key locations, and fight their way through alien forces to plant the final charge in the heart of the ship. Max's pulse raced as they boarded the spacecraft that would take them into the alien ship. They flew through the night sky, cloaked and invisible to the enemy, until they reached the mothership. It was a massive structure, a dark monolith against the stars, its surface dotted with weaponry and alien soldiers. It was heavily guarded, but Max knew this was the only chance they had. They had to destroy it, or the invasion would continue. As the humans infiltrated the mothership, they quickly realized just how intense the fight would be. The halls were eerily silent at first, with only the faint hum of alien machinery filling the air. But as they moved deeper into the ship, the first alien drones appeared. These machines were formidable, armed with advanced energy weapons and shields, but the humans had an advantage. They were using the environment to their advantage. Max and his team had learned that the alien technology could be neutralized with water. The human resistance to drowning gave them an edge. They planted explosives around critical systems, timing them to go off when the ship was about to reach full capacity. Meanwhile, the team used water-based tactics to fight back against the alien forces. Max carried a high-pressure water gun, a weapon that could blast powerful jets of water at high speeds. It was perfect for neutralizing alien drones, sending them into the flooded halls and short-circuiting their systems. The flooded corridors became a battleground. As Max and his team planted explosives, they also fought alien soldiers, who had now become desperate. The Thrixians were trying to stop the humans from completing their mission, but they had underestimated the humans' ingenuity. Water-based drones were deployed by the humans, their mechanical bodies zipping through the flooded hallways and taking out alien soldiers with powerful jets of water. The alien ships had never encountered anything like this before. Their cloaking devices were useless against the torrents of water flooding the hallways. Alien robots, designed to withstand energy blasts, quickly short-circuited and malfunctioned when doused with water. The humans fought with a mixture of precision and fury, using their superior knowledge of water-based tactics to stay one step ahead of the Thrixians. The battle was chaotic. Alien soldiers appeared from hidden doors, firing at Max and his team with their plasma weapons. But the humans had learned to use their environment to their advantage. They flooded the hallways with water, trapping the aliens in their own ship. The battles took place underwater, making it harder for the aliens to use their advanced tech. In contrast, the humans thrived in the flooded conditions. The sheer desperation of the situation only made Max and his team fight harder. Every step they took deeper into the mothership seemed like a step into hell. The corridors were flooded, and the hum of the ship's engines was drowned out by the sounds of water splashing against walls and the roar of battle. There was no time for hesitation. Max knew that each moment counted. If they didn't destroy the ship soon, the aliens would overwhelm them with their superior numbers. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Max and his team reached the core of the mothership, the central hub that controlled all of the ship's systems. It was here that they would plant the final explosives, setting off a chain reaction that would destroy the ship. But as they set their charges, Krar, the Thrixian leader, made his move. Desperate to stop the humans from succeeding, Krar activated a failsafe that flooded the entire ship. Water began pouring from every wall, filling the corridors even faster than before. The ship was rapidly sinking into chaos. The human team was trapped. They had completed their mission, but now they had to survive. The team fought against the rising water, making their way back to the escape pods. The weight of the situation was heavy. Every second counted. Max could feel the pressure building in his chest as the water level continued to rise. But even in this moment of peril, he wasn't going to give up. Not when they were so close to victory. He could hear his team's voices, urging him to move faster, to push forward. They fought their way through the flooded corridors, using their water-resistant suits to stay alive. But the escape was not guaranteed. Alien soldiers, caught in the same flooding, were now frantic, scrambling to stop the humans. Max and his team fought tooth and nail, struggling to reach the escape pods. Every corner they turned, it felt like an ambush was waiting for them. Alien drones, now completely submerged in water, still posed a threat, but Max and his team used their weapons to fight back, pushing forward with sheer willpower. Max's heart raced as he saw the escape pods in the distance. The doors were just ahead, but the water was rising fast. The countdown to the ship's destruction was ticking away, and if they didn't make it out, they would be caught in the explosion. The water was up to their waists now, and the ship was starting to shake. Max could hear the rumble of the self-destruct sequence starting to kick in. The end of the ship was near. "Get to the pods," Max shouted, urging his team to move faster. With a final burst of energy, Max and his team made it to the escape pods, but the door wouldn't open. Panic set in for a moment. Krar's forces had activated a lockdown. Max slammed his fist against the console, desperate. But then he remembered something. The water. With the last of their energy, they used water-based tactics to short-circuit the door's lock, forcing it open. The escape pod doors finally opened, and Max and his team rushed inside, escaping just moments before the mothership exploded in a blinding flash of light. The explosion was deafening, sending shockwaves through the water and space around them. Max and his team had successfully infiltrated the alien mothership, planted explosives, and escaped just in time. The Thrixian invasion was now in disarray. Humanity had struck back, using its unique resistance to water-based threats to turn the tide of the war. But the battle was far from over. Krar and the Thrixians would undoubtedly regroup, and Max knew they had only won a small victory in a much larger war. Still, the destruction of the mothership marked a turning point in the conflict. Humanity had proven that it was capable of fighting back against the might of the alien invaders, and this victory would inspire the world to stand together and continue the fight for survival. The alien mothership was crumbling, its systems failing, as the self-destruct sequence ticked down to its final moments. The massive vessel shook with each passing second, debris falling and lights flickering. It was a race against time. Max and his team had just narrowly escaped the flooding that had threatened to drown them. And now they faced the final battle against the alien invaders. But the mission wasn't complete yet. Max knew the last piece of the puzzle was Krar, the alien leader whose defeat would be the ultimate sign that humanity had reclaimed control. Max's heart pounded as he made his way through the flooded, now destroyed corridors of the mothership. The alien forces had been decimated, their weaponry useless against the power of water. Alien robots had short-circuited, their once deadly blasters now reduced to rust, and soldiers had been driven into retreat, unable to stand against the force of the humans' tactics. But Krar, he was still out there, and Max had to face him, one-on-one, to end the alien threat once and for all. The sound of rushing water echoed as Max moved forward, his steps echoing in the flooded hallways. He could hear the alien leader's voice through the intercom system, taunting him, mocking the human's victory. "You think you've won, human. You have no idea what's coming. You're nothing more than ants beneath our feet." Max's grip tightened on his weapon as he turned a corner. And there he was, Krar. The alien leader stood tall and imposing, his body armored in sleek alien technology. His reptilian eyes glowed with hatred as he stared down at Max, his massive form a stark contrast to the smaller human. The alien's claws were outstretched, ready for the final confrontation. "You've cost me everything," Krar snarled, "but you will not leave this ship alive." Max took a deep breath. This was it, the moment where everything would be decided. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders. The battle that ensued was intense. Krar was a formidable foe, faster and stronger than any alien Max had encountered before. The alien leader fought with a viciousness born from his desperation to defeat the humans once and for all. But Max, having learned from every battle, every struggle, used his knowledge of the ship's water systems to turn the tide. Max grabbed a control panel and rerouted the ship's water systems, causing torrents of water to flood the nearby corridors. The ship groaned as the pressure increased. Water surged through the halls, knocking Krar off his feet as the alien leader struggled to keep his footing. Max's eyes narrowed as he saw his opening. The more water that poured in, the more Krar's technology began to fail. The alien's advanced weapons became useless, turning into puddles of rust as the ship flooded further. Max wasn't just fighting Krar, he was fighting the ship itself, using the flooding water to his advantage. The alien weapons couldn't function underwater, and Krar's armor began to fail under the pressure of the rising water. But Krar was relentless, using his brute strength to try and overpower Max. "Your resistance is futile," Krar roared, swinging his massive claws at Max. But Max was faster. He dodged the attack, using his agility to outmaneuver Krar. The water continued to pour in, and the ship groaned louder with each passing second. The battle had become a visual spectacle, with massive waves of water flooding the ship's corridors, crashing against the walls, and cascading over the alien leader. The once pristine corridors of the mothership were now an underwater battlefield, the alien technology slowly succumbing to the overwhelming force of the water. Krar struggled against the rising tide, but it was clear that he was losing. The water pressure was too much for him. His strength was waning, and the once mighty alien leader was now gasping for air, struggling to stay afloat as the water level reached his chest. Max stepped forward, his face grim with determination. He had one final chance to defeat Krar and end this war once and for all. "You may have underestimated us, Krar," Max said, his voice steady, "but we are stronger than you think." With a swift motion, Max lunged forward and struck Krar with a well-placed blow. The alien leader let out a roar of fury, but the force of the water and Max's attack was too much. Krar's body buckled under the pressure, and the alien leader fell to his knees, unable to withstand the force of the rising tide. As Krar's body sank into the water, Max stood over him, breathing heavily. It was over. The alien leader was defeated, and with him, the Thrixian invasion was crushed. But as Krar lay dying, he managed to utter one final chilling message. "You've won this time, human," Krar rasped, his voice weak. "But we will return. We will come back with a force stronger than anything you can imagine. Your victory is meaningless." Max's heart sank. He had defeated Krar, but the war wasn't over. The alien invaders would return, and humanity would have to be ready. But that was a problem for another day. For now, humanity had won, and that victory, however fleeting, was enough. With Krar's final breath, the alien leader died, his body sinking beneath the waves of water that flooded the mothership. Max's gaze lingered on the defeated alien, but his thoughts were already turning to the future. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven it could fight back. It had proven it was capable of overcoming any threat. As the alien fleet retreated, Max and his team watched from the safety of their escape pods as the alien mothership exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The explosion sent shockwaves through space, the debris scattering into the void. The battle had been won, but at a cost. Max's heart still ached from the loss of his comrade, Bonner, whose death had driven him to this point. The victory was bittersweet. Max stood in the escape pod, gazing out at the destruction, his mind replaying the events that had led them to this moment. The pain of losing Bonner would never fade, but in that moment, Max knew that his fallen friend's sacrifice had not been in vain. The team's survival was a testament to their resilience. They had fought and won against an overwhelming force. But Max knew that their victory was just the beginning. The Thrixians would return, and humanity would have to be ready. They had faced the unknown, and they had won. But in doing so, they had awakened a much larger conflict, one that would take everything humanity had to survive. As the escape pods drifted toward Earth, Max could see the clear skies stretching out before him. The battle for Earth was over for now, but the war against the Thrixians was far from finished. Humanity had proved its strength. Now, it would have to unite to prepare for the coming storm. The team embraced, knowing that the future was uncertain. But they were no longer afraid. They had fought back against the darkness, and they had won. Together, they would face whatever challenges came next. The camera zoomed out, showing Earth's bright skies, no longer shadowed by the alien threat. But above them, a dark unknown loomed, a reminder that the battle was far from over. And Max, he knew that he would be ready, no matter what came next. In the aftermath of the fierce battle that had decimated the Thrixian forces, the world was forever changed. The skies, once darkened by the alien motherships, were now clear. The cities that had been ravaged by the invasion were being rebuilt, and humanity had come together as never before. The scars of war were still fresh, but they no longer seemed as daunting. Humanity had discovered something incredible during the conflict: their strength, resilience, and untapped potential. Max stood at the forefront of this new era. The war was not over, but the victory over Krar and the alien forces had ignited a fire within humanity. People were no longer afraid. They had proven that they could stand against even the most advanced alien technology and emerge victorious. And now, they were determined to prepare for the next battle, knowing that the threat of alien invasions had not been extinguished. It had only been delayed. Max had become a symbol of hope, a leader in the truest sense of the word. His team, still reeling from the loss of their comrades, had rallied around him. Together with Zera, the alien defector who had chosen to side with humanity, they had become an inseparable pair. The bond between Max and Zera had deepened during the war, forged in the heat of battle, and solidified by their shared experiences. Zera had once seen humanity as weak and insignificant, but now, after seeing the courage and determination of Max and his team, she had a newfound respect for Earth's people. Zera had become more than just a friend to Max. Over time, their relationship had blossomed into something deeper. They had found comfort in each other's presence, understanding that their worlds had collided in a way that neither of them could have ever imagined. Their partnership was a testament to humanity's ability to adapt, to embrace the unknown, and to forge bonds with those who were once enemies. Together, Max and Zera led a team of brilliant scientists and engineers, working tirelessly to uncover the secrets of human biology and its remarkable resistance to alien technology. The team was focused on understanding why the Thrixian weaponry had failed against humans, and how they could harness this new knowledge to protect Earth from future threats. There were still so many questions to be answered. Questions about the water-based abilities that had allowed the humans to gain the upper hand, and about the mysterious biological advantages that had made humanity's resistance so effective. Max knew that the next wave of threats would be far worse. The Thrixians were not the only alien force in the galaxy, and now that humanity had shown its strength, other civilizations would surely take notice. Max and Zera, driven by a sense of duty to protect Earth, worked with the brightest minds to create new technologies and strategies to defend their home. The research was groundbreaking. The scientists had discovered that humans possessed an innate resistance to certain forms of alien technology, particularly those that relied on advanced energy fields. The team had also unlocked hidden potentials within human biology, such as heightened adaptability to extreme conditions and the ability to rapidly learn and evolve in the face of danger. These discoveries opened up a world of possibilities, new weapons, new defenses, and new ways to fight back against the coming alien threats. But despite the optimism that came with these advancements, Max knew that humanity's true strength lay in its resilience. It wasn't just the technology that would ensure their survival, it was the unwavering spirit of the people. The ability to fight, to never give up, even in the face of impossible odds. The spirit of humanity was something that the aliens had underestimated, and now they would learn just how dangerous that spirit could be. Max and Zara often found themselves discussing the future late into the night, contemplating the road ahead. They knew that Earth had become a target. The victory over Krar had been a huge blow to the alien forces, but it had also sent a clear message. Humanity would not be conquered. Max and Zara had seen the way the alien leaders had reacted, both fear and admiration in their eyes. Humanity had risen to the challenge, and now, the rest of the galaxy would be watching. It was during one of these conversations that Zara turned to Max, her eyes serious. "Do you think we're ready for what's coming next?" Max hesitated for a moment, looking out over the horizon, where the sun was beginning to set. The future was uncertain, and no one could predict what would happen next. But one thing was certain. Humanity would be ready to face whatever threat came their way. "We don't have a choice," Max said, his voice firm. "We're ready, and we'll fight, no matter what." As Max and Zara continued to lead the charge toward humanity's new era, the world remained vigilant. People all across the globe were united in their resolve to defend Earth. New alliances were formed, technologies were developed, and armies were trained. Humanity was no longer a scattered collection of nations. It had become a unified force, determined to protect its home at all costs. But even as the human race stood strong, the threat of future invasions loomed large. The sky, once filled with the dark shapes of alien ships, was now clear. Earth's atmosphere, once tainted by the presence of extraterrestrial invaders, now seemed peaceful. But even in this peace, there was an unease, a lingering knowledge that this calm was only temporary. On a distant cliff overlooking the ocean, a shadowy figure stood watching. The figure was cloaked, obscured by the darkness, but its eyes burned with an intensity that was impossible to ignore. It wasn't just a bystander. It was someone who had seen the human victory, someone who knew that the balance of power had shifted. The figure turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. The threat was not gone. Far from it. But as the camera zoomed out, showing Earth's bright sky, now free from the alien motherships, it was clear that humanity had emerged stronger than ever before. The victory over Krar had been a triumph, but it was only the beginning of a much larger story. The forces that had once underestimated humanity now knew better. And the next time they came, they would find a world united, a world that would not back down. Humanity had proven its resilience, and the battle for Earth was far from over. But now, for the first time, the humans knew they had the power to win. Max stood with Zara by his side, looking out over the horizon. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They were ready. Ready to face whatever came next, with the strength, courage, and unity that had been forged in the fires of war. And as the scene faded to black, the promise of a new dawn hung in the air. Humanity's resolve was unbreakable, and the galaxy would soon learn that Earth would never be an easy target again. The battle for Earth had only just begun.